Hi, guys. Welcome to Real Food Recovery. Today's conversation is for anyone who's been told their symptoms are normal, their labs look fine, or that gut issues are just another wellness trend. Leaky gut, clinically known as intestinal permeability, say that 10 times, is not buzzword science. It's a real measurable breakdown of the gut lining that can quietly drive inflammation, immune dysfunction, food sensitivities, and chronic symptoms long before a diagnosis ever appears. In this episode, I'm joined by Lola MacLean to unpack what's really happening inside the body after years of ultra processed food exposure, why healing often starts with slowing down instead of adding more, and how simple, grounded shifts can restore resilience in both the gut and the nervous system. If you're recovering from the effects of ultra processed foods and looking for clarity, hope, and a calmer path forward, this conversation is for you. Before we get into it, though, I want to tell you a little bit more about Lola MacLean. She is a functional health consultant and founder of Halion Empowered, helping high performing women get real answers for ongoing symptoms like fatigue, digestive issues, and brain fog. With over 15 years in healthcare and advanced training in functional medicine, she specializes in personalized root cause approaches that help women build sustainable health that fits their real lives so they can show up with clarity, energy, and confidence at work and at home. We are so thrilled to have her. How do you want me to refer to you? Lola, Dr.
Yes.
McLean?
No, Lola is
Lola.
fine. Yeah.
Hey, hey, you
Hey,
girl.
you. Hey, girl. Hey.
Before I dive into questions, I wanted the audience to know a little bit more about you personally and how you got into this field. You are such a delight and just
Oh, thanks.
you emit positivity. You just have a light aura about you, but I want them to have the opportunity to know a little bit more about Lola.
Yeah. So health and wellness has always been kind of my jam. I was into it ever since I was little. But as life happens and you grow up and you find out that people do different things, what I wanted to do shifted from being like small town family
Mhm.
medicine doctor to nurse practitioner. I did that for a little while. And during that time period as a primary care provider and nurse practitioner, I there was a couple things going on. One was I kept getting really tired of people
Mhm.
coming with complaints, especially around digestion and then also like hormones and all these things, and not having actual answers for them, right? Like having like,
Right.
here's a diet we can try, here's a referral to the GI doc, or we don't do hormones, like you got to go talk to the gynecologist. This is all kind of bunk science. Um, and then also at that same time, kind of going through some of my own health challenges, specifically around digestion, like IBS and those kinds of things. And then both of those kind of combined and led me into the functional medicine world because I was looking for answers for myself. I was looking for
Right.
answers for my patients, and functional medicine was a thing. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is this is amazing. Like actually digging in and asking why is this happening in this unique person, in their unique physiology, in their lifestyle, in their environment, and being able to really get down to the nitty gritty and heal from a root level, right? Like
Yeah.
heal rather than just slapping band-aids on stuff, more of like that, okay, let's actually address the dysfunction and this imbalance and see what kind of spirals from there.
Don't you think that's just so much more fulfilling on a
Yeah,
personal level to do that?
absolutely.
Like you feel like I'm actually making a difference here
Yeah.
instead of kind of like passing them on. I mean,
hmm
here's a Band-Aid next.
hmm
No, I would think that would be tremendously more fulfilling.
Yeah. And I
And you,
think, oh, sorry. I think
uh,
like just future wise, I hope that that's how primary care starts to go, right? Is this
yeah.
like, let's ask why, let's really look at the basics, the lifestyle, let's address these dysfunctional pieces before we get this like overt diagnosable disease, right?
Don't you see a trend that more
Mhm.
that's being more and more talked about, the holistic approach?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely it is. And I think that's a really good thing. And also like not letting the pendulum swing too far in the sense of like now we have a supplement for every imbalance versus a pill for every ill, right? Like really
Yeah,
having that like let's work on the basics. How is
yeah,
your nutrition? Are
yeah,
you eating processed
yeah.
foods all the time and then still supplementing? Because that's not gonna really solve anything, but
Right.
yeah.
Oh, I know. Gosh, we could go off on a tangent on that so much as far as preventative care, starting with your diet, your
Absolutely.
sleep, your relationships, your movement, your
Hmm.
spirituality, all those things. I mean, how much just those four things would cure so many
A lot.
ails out there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, preventative medicine, isn't it just a matter of time and money that we don't operate that way? I mean,
It's definitely there's a cultural aspect to it, right? Like we gotta hustle, we gotta like make,
yeah.
we gotta get through, we gotta push, we gotta
Hmm.
grind, and
Got
it's
to
like,
see as
ooh,
many people as possible
yeah,
in one
many people as
day.
possible. We have to be productive, right?
Right. And that interviewing system of medicine
Hmm.
doesn't always set us up for that, which
No.
is why we have podcasts like this to get into it a little deeper, right? So,
Right. And then people can advocate for themselves because they're like,
yeah,
look, I listened to this, I heard this. What do you know? Let's check it out.
I do agree with that, that one of the biggest responsibilities is
Hmm.
being our own advocate and
Hmm.
educating ourselves because you cannot just rely on going to the doctor. You've really
Hmm.
got to go with educated questions. And quite frankly, I think you get better care because they respect you more. They know what you're talking about
Hmm.
and they're willing to engage on a higher level.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
well, are we ready to get into the hot topic of leaky gut? Do you want to
Yes.
take it from there and just kind of explain a little bit
What it is.
about, yeah, let's just start with what it is and what is intestinal
Permeability.
permeability
Hmm.
and really why would that matter to our audience of those recovering from ultra processed foods? Why would that be a big deal? Why would they want to know about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think kind of backtracking to like the bunk science piece, when I was first getting into functional medicine, leaky gut was something that comes up a lot. And 10 years ago, you could have told somebody about this and they would have looked at you and been like, you are out of your mind. This is not a legit thing. Like, what are we doing? And now there's so much evidence and so much actual like research and data on this that it's wild to me. But with leaky gut or enhanced intestinal permeability, when we're talking about that, what we are really talking about is the cells within our digestive tract are really just one cell layer thick, right, within our colon and our small intestines. And so they line up together and they hug each other really tightly. We want those cells to like be smushed against each other. So that way, all the stuff coming through our digestive system doesn't move down into the bloodstream, right? So when we have this enhanced intestinal permeability, that hug that these cells have, they're called tight junctions, but that hug becomes a little bit looser. And so now you have larger molecules kind of coming down through ways that they weren't supposed to go through. They're supposed to go through the cells, not through the middle. And so now they're going through the middle. And when that happens, they end up in the bloodstream, but also activating our immune system and kind of creating some inflammation within the rest of our body, right?
It's waste
So
product, right?
yeah, for the most part. I
Can we
mean,
say
it's
that?
things like, yeah, because that cell layer, what it's supposed to be doing is it's supposed to be helping to keep different bacteria, different toxins, food fragments out of our bloodstream, right? And so when that barrier becomes more permeable or leaky, then those substances that really shouldn't be passing through are slipping through and into the circulation, again, kind of triggering that immune activation and that inflammation, right? And so, especially with ultra processed foods, this can be an issue because the ultra processed foods, they do a couple of different things, right? They really kind of disrupt our microbiome, which
Hmm.
are our healthy bacteria and yeast and different things that just live within us naturally. And that disruption kind of changes our mucosal layer, it irritates that gut lining, and it can create that enhanced intestinal permeability, right? Which again then starts to promote that chronic inflammation.
And inflammation, I have heard a speaker talk about a cancer expert. He was talking about inflammation. And I think
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to repeat this correctly that it's next to impossible to get cancer if you don't have inflammation within the cells.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound familiar to you? I mean, we
Yeah,
want to do
there's
everything we can to decrease inflammation within the
yeah.
cells because that's the cells, the dysfunctional cells divide and multiply and divide and
Mm-hmm.
multiply, but it starts with inflammation. Am I right?
Right. And that, yeah, there's a lot of talk around that, like inflammation being a big driver for a lot of chronic diseases, including cancer, right? And that has
Hmm.
a lot to do with kind of that, we call it redox balance, but that reduction and oxidation, like going back to chemistry in high school, Leo the lion says grr kind of thing, right?
Hmm.
I'm sure some of you will remember that. But that balance of like, um, redox is really important for keeping that inflammation down, keeping our cells moving well and going well. Sorry, doggo's barking.
Oh, you know what? No, we can't hear it at all.
Oh,
And
good.
so, yeah, don't worry about that.
Okay.
Um, and inflammation, not just cancer, but a host of other issues,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. So things like diabetes, things like metabolic disorders, things like cardiovascular disorders. There's actually a lot of science coming out now, especially with long-term diseases like Parkinson's and
Oh,
Alzheimer's and things
wow.
like that also being really associated with changes in the microbiome and inflammation.
I love how I've never heard it described as the cells hugging one another.
Hmm.
And when you said that, I'm such a touchy-feely girl. I thought, oh, it's like they love, that's how they're showing love to
Yeah.
each other and back to our body because it's a form of protection, right?
Hmm.
Is there
Hmm.
any greater form of love than to show protection?
A hug. I know.
So,
The other
yeah.
way I hear it oftentimes is good fences make good neighbors, right? And just thinking
Oh,
about that concept of
yeah.
like, well, you do, you need a barrier. You need a barrier in order to protect the other environments, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're
Hmm.
protecting your body from waste products,
Hmm.
basically, things that you
Hmm.
don't you don't want floating. You want it to pass through. It's like
And get out.
emotions. Yeah, it's like emotions, you have these
Yeah.
negative emotions. You don't want them to just hang in there. We're trying to
Hmm.
process them
Hmm.
and get them moving on out. So, yeah, the best thing the quickest way to expel waste is to keep it inside the track and
And
out the
out.
system. Yeah. And I also did a podcast once on the importance of fiber. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it's the fiber that creates the short chain fatty acids, which are
Hmm.
like the guards that stand atop a post and keeps the gut wall safe.
Happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, fiber is definitely a big component of producing these things called short chain fatty acids because a lot of the microbes in our body, they'll eat the fiber and then that's their byproduct are things like butyrate and acetate. And those short chain fatty acids are basically fuel and help to keep the health of our colonocytes, right?
Mhm.
So they are the fiber is feeding the microbiome. The microbiome is then creating a substance that then feeds our cells and keeps
Mhm.
them happy. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and the fiber also helps move the waste products
Yes.
along.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So
Depending
is
on what else going on, it can definitely be very helpful with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just interesting how everything really is set up and designed to work
Yeah.
together for our
Hmm.
most optimal self. I had someone who I was talking to about they were a carnivore and trying to say, we don't need all that fiber and that's a
Hmm.
bunch of hooey. And I'm like, I don't want to be argumentative, but I really do think we do need a lot of fiber. Do
Yeah.
you want to talk about that for just
Yeah,
a second?
carnivore, like not to not carnivore diet because for some people it is a
Agree.
really good option.
Agree.
Um, Temporarily. It's one of those temporary diets, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you really should not be doing carnivore for like a decade or for even like greater than, 18 months. And the people who do it, generally, a lot of what's going on is it's just such a shift in the way that they're eating that it reduces a lot of inflammation. And so that's a big driver for people. However, when we switch over to this carnivore diet, we also get a huge shift in our microbiome. And we lose a lot of those short chain fatty acids. And it's funny that you mentioned that because recently I've seen kind of like an influx with people kind of coming into my world and like asking questions about stuff because they've been doing carnivore for so long. And now they're trying to get off of it. And they're like, I can't eat anything. I'm always bloated. I'm always gassy. I'm having all these reactions to foods.
Right.
It's like, well, things kind of shifted and we need to work on reshifting it again, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Do you see that? So here's what I say. I don't do anything extreme. And I don't care
Hmm.
if you're vegan or carnivore. What it would behoove me to tell people what to eat. I just say you need to stick to single ingredient, non-processed foods, only
Mm-hmm.
because that's how your body was designed to consume food. It
Hmm.
wasn't designed to convert and consume ultra-processed food. Our bodies were designed and engineered to consume. So yeah, it's up to me. It's up to you. But I don't do the extremes just because for me they're not sustainable.
Yeah.
And so I've tried a keto for a long time, and I just love apples, my Cosmic Crisp apples. I can't do it, and
Yeah.
I don't want to. So
Yeah.
I'm just more mainstream, just sticking to a well-rounded, balanced diet.
Hmm.
I'm not promoting that. I'm not telling anybody else that. I'm just saying
Yeah.
what works for me. So that's how
Yeah.
my gut feels
And
the
that's so true,
best.
right? Because we all also have very unique microbiomes
Agree.
and
Thank you. Talk about that. Yes, yes,
yeah.
yes.
So like we all have very unique microbiomes. And with that too, like our environment influences that so much. So again, kind of going back to those basics, right? Like how is your sleep? How is your stress? How is your physical
Yes.
movement? Because that will
Yes.
alter our microbiome. And then the question gets to be, well, what type of nutritional diet do you need to thrive? And so for some people, keto is great because they have a lot of metabolic dysfunction or epilepsy or things like that, right?
Yes.
And again,
Yes.
kind of a temporary piece, like until we get this dysfunction situated, then what happens, right? Then we can shift to a different type of diet or a more normalized diet, just as your body shifts in response to what you're doing.
Hmm. I
Hmm.
am so grateful that you said that because we cannot, we don't want to shove square pegs into round
Yeah.
holes because everybody's tummy
Everybody's
is
so
different.
different. Yeah.
I know. Isn't that
Yeah.
funny that you'd
Yeah.
think everybody would just have the same
Hmm.
microbiome? Is there
Hmm.
one thing that affects microbiome more than anything else?
So that's super interesting because, like, we know now so much of our microbiome is set in the very first few years of our life, right?
Oh, I've never heard
So
that. Oh, wow.
that, I mean, like, I think that that is probably the most impactful is early life. So, like, were you vaginally born or was it a C-section? Were
Get
you
out of
breastfed or
here.
bottle fed?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, because like if think even just like C-section versus vaginal delivery, right? Like you're going through the birth canal, you're being exposed to all the stuff that's in your mom, right? And so that bacteria, as you go through it and you're swallowing it, becomes your primary first microbiome, right?
Interesting.
Versus
Interesting.
C-section, where it's like, okay, now what we're exposed to initially is all of the flora from the skin, right? The hand contact from the nurses and the doctors, the skin to skin contact from our parents, those types of things. And so those two microbiomes look a lot different. One tends to be a little bit more inflammatory because of the staph and the strep from the skin versus all the lactobacillus and things from the birth canal, right?
Fascinating.
Yeah. And then that
That's
kind of
so,
sticks. Yeah.
yeah, you don't think about
Yeah.
that. That
Mm-mm.
is extraordinarily
Hmm.
fascinating. Well, I love this conversation. We've gotten off on a little bit of a
It can
sidetrack,
go,
but
it can go all over the place, Paige.
yeah. So let's talk about the things that I think our biggest demographic is women from maybe late 30s to
Hmm.
late 70s, which all that demographic tends to have more of problems with the bloating, the
Hmm.
anxiety, fatigue, food sensitivity. What do you think? And by the way, most of those people are just like, oh, well, I have it, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
they think
It's
it's
normal.
normal.
Hmm.
So, do you want to talk about what is normal, what's not normal? Is it realistic to think I'm going to have a perfect digestive system where I get up and I have a normal bowel movement, I empty to full capacity every day, and I don't have any gas or bloating during the day no matter what I eat? Is that even do real people live like that?
Do, so I think there's a part of that definitely, right? Because again, it's about that input. So no, you can't expect that if your normal is running around, stressed out all the time, going and rushing through things and reacting to everything and eating on the go, even if you're eating a very well balanced, healthy diet, not sitting down for meals and rushing through stuff. No, that's not expected. But if the input is different, right? So if we are actually taking our time and sitting down, we've got these well-developed, great relationships, we're sleeping well, we're moving our body, we're getting adequate fiber, we're eating the things that actually nourish us, then yeah, that is very much to be expected, right?
That's in a utopian world where our
Yeah.
parasympathetic nervous system
Where we're
is
just
in
all like zen
charge.
and chilled out all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. It's baskets of kitties and rainbows and glitter coming down from the sky. That would be great. And now that you talked about that slowing down and not eating standing up, I remember
Hmm.
our last conversation where I committed to not having all my meals in the car from one thing to the next and to sit down, and I forgot. By the next day, I was
It was
rushed off
done.
to, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But that does make total sense. And so, what do you say to people?
Hmm.
Is there a first step in trying to address that to see if, why don't you try tweaking just this one little thing and
Hmm.
see if that, like, what would make the biggest impact on those types of things?
Yeah, absolutely. That what you were talking about is kind of that eating hygiene, right? And that is something that
Hmm.
I have seen over and over and over again when actually done with consistency and regularity make a big difference for people. Because it's helping us to move from that just like go, 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 fight, flight kind of mode into an actual
Right.
parasympathetic state, which
Yeah.
is
Rest
rest
and
and
digest.
digest,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And it's really easy in theory because it's not complicated, right? It's let's sit down, let's look at our meal, let's take a few minutes to just enjoy it, let's chew things thoroughly,
Hmm.
maybe 15 minutes, but in reality can be very challenging when we've set ourselves up for something different, right? When it's the expectation, like, oh, when our food becomes something other than nourishment, when it becomes a to-do, right? A lot of us start to see food as a to-do, like, oh,
Yes.
I just got to check this off. I got to get done. I got to meet my macros. I've got to
Yeah.
like make sure I'm hitting these points. Like, okay, I'm eating 3 meals a day to balance my blood sugar. Great. But it's another thing on the task list. And so that kind of negates that purpose of rest and digest, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I know people that are listening are like, I wonder if she does it. Do you think she does it? How does she do it? Are you
Yeah, good
perfect at
question.
that?
No, I am not. And it is definitely, I mean, like I'm again kind of we were talking about culture earlier, like we've normalized this like rushed kind of movement. Mornings, I'm very good at it, right? Because I am like, okay, we're sitting down, we're having breakfast. Usually my 5-year-old
Oh.
doesn't wake up until 7. I'm a little bit earlier riser, so I've got some time and space. Lunches, that's kind of a hit or miss for me, right? Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I'm eating at my desk. Sometimes I'm actually like sitting down and taking the time. Sometimes it's like, oh, shoot, I forgot to go do this. I gotta get in the car. Oh, wait, I haven't eaten lunch yet. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
And then dinners, I mean, we try as a family to sit down and eat dinners together and be mindful about that. With 5-year-olds, sometimes that's a little bit of a challenge. Like, just
Yeah.
sit down and eat
Mm-hmm.
your
Yeah.
dinner, right? I'm
Yeah.
not a short order cook. I'm sorry you don't like it.
Yeah. I know when you said sit down and eat breakfast, I thought people sit to eat breakfast.
Yep.
I
Hmm.
mean, in all sincerity, I'm like, I don't know that I, hmm. And
Mm,
I usually have a protein shake anyway, and
hmm
I have that. I make a week's worth of those.
mm,
And I do that on purpose because I know mornings are so tight because I'm trying to get to the gym on time so I can get home on time
hmm
to take my nap before I start my day after my workout. And it's just I mean, I purposely created a breakfast that I could move with.
Yeah,
So
move quickly with.
yeah, I know that goes
Yeah.
against everything you're
Well, and
saying.
that's, I think the other part too is like, what is it that is working for you?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if you're feeling like, oh man, to make a breakfast, to sit down, to eat this is too rushed and it's going to stress me out more,
Yes, that's right.
is there like a different way that we could carve it out and think about, okay, well, when I'm having my shake, I'm gonna actually just like sit down and take the few moments to sit here and drink this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is, so I'm moving and sipping and moving and sipping. I my
Mm-hmm.
stomach seems to do better if
Mm.
I
And moving.
spread, yeah, kind of spread it out. If I'm not just drinking, just take a drink,
Mm,
take
mm-hmm.
one drink, wait a few minutes, take another drink, wait a few
Mm-hmm.
minutes. It seems to land better,
Yeah.
and it's not
That
just
makes sense
sitting
too
on
with
my gut.
liquids though, right?
Yes,
Because when we put a whole lot of
yes.
liquid into us, it's like ugh, a
Yeah,
lot.
bloated
And
and
yeah, mm-hmm.
too
And
full.
there's a couple reasons, right? Because it's a lot of liquid, but then also usually those shakes are cold, and so that's kind of like a shock to the
True.
system.
That's
And then the
true.
protein powder, if we like blend it for a lot of time, like a long
Uh-huh.
time,
Yeah.
it actually will create more bloating with us.
Oh,
Just the way
interesting.
that the mechanism through which it's done. So usually what I recommend, especially if you're getting bloated with shakes, is make the shake first, then add the protein powder and just blend it for like maybe 10
Ah.
seconds. And that for some people is enough to reduce a lot of bloating.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I said, I make a week's worth at a time, and I also
Mm-hmm.
have 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed in there. So it's
Mm-hmm.
actually like solid by the time I get to it because it turns into like that
A
flaxseed
mush.
egg.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just very, very thick.
Gel.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a gel. It's a
Yeah.
gel.
It's a gel.
So, since people that are listening are usually people that are suffering from the ultra processed food use disorder,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about the connection between that and the gut barrier and how
Mm-hmm.
does long-term exposure to, I'm going to call them toxins that are inside the
Yeah.
ultra
Yeah.
processed foods. What does that do to the love and the hugging? What
Yeah.
happens to the huggers?
The huggers,
Yeah.
they stop hugging so well, right?
Yeah.
So, because when we think about ultra processed foods, right, besides just like being a lot of chemical additives and things that way, they're also pretty low in fiber, pretty low in like
Right.
phytonutrients and those good things, right? So they have the additives, they had emulsifiers, the refined sugars, a lot of, depending on what it is, the unhealthy kind of fats, right? And so over time, what happens there is, like we had talked about earlier, it changes our microbiome. So it reduces the beneficial gut bacteria, which then kind of increases some inflammation
Yeah.
in the microbes, right? You get more inflammatory or opportunistic microbes that pop up. And then that causes a thinning in that mucosal layer because the good microbes aren't making that short chain fatty acid anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or it's reduced. And then when we have that thinning in the mucosal layer, we get a lot of inflammation. And then that causes those tight junctions to weaken a little bit, and those
Mm-hmm.
hugs become pretty loose. And
Mm-hmm.
so then now stuff starts to trickle through and we become reactive to a lot of foods. We get a lot more inflammation. We start to have allergies to things we didn't think we'd had allergies to. We start to get early warning signs of different like autoimmune diseases and those kinds of things, right? So I think that's the big thing is it shifts the microbiome first and then everything else follows.
And do you think that the body recognizes the processed foods as toxins, like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
poisonous invaders that I'm having to
Yeah.
fight
Fight
against?
off. Yeah, because I mean,
Hmm.
when you think about it, like those, our immune system really what it's looking at, it's like, is this friend or is this foe?
Right.
Right? And its whole job is to like surveil and to tolerate. So we don't want it to be overreactive. we also don't want it to be underreactive. We need to have like a nice middle ground. And so when we are throwing in all these different chemicals that our body doesn't necessarily recognize as either us, it doesn't necessarily recognize it as friend, it starts to react to it. And when we have that permeability and those are leaking through a little bit easier, then again, now we're having more inflammation, more immune reactivity, and it just forward feeds that cycle.
That actually scares me to death because especially as I'm 62 and as I get
Hmm.
older, I think we just naturally take our health a little bit more seriously
Hope
because
so, yeah.
there's a lot more on the line, right? And it seems like
Yeah.
things can go wrong a lot easier.
Mm,
And the idea of our cells going, what is this? Because
hmm.
I kind of understand it like I've explained it to people like every bite of food you take will ledger itself. The little mitochondria in the cell is every bite you take, it ledgers the bite to either cellular aging or
Hmm.
cellular repair.
Hmm.
Every bite you take. And
Hmm.
then that's a cascade of reactions
Hmm.
after every bite you take. And the last thing I want is old lady cells. I want young, vibrant, hot
Yeah.
cells,
You want to go
right?
backwards in age. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
don't you think our food is like, is it fair to say the number one contributor to aging? Am I
Can be
wrong?
food. I think, I think there's a lot there because food is definitely information.
Right.
And with the information we're giving it, like if you're eating a lot of processed foods and just these things that aren't real food, that's a particular set of information, right? And when we look,
Uh-huh.
not to knock people, but when we look around at our country and what we're eating, generally speaking, and what is normal, 97% of American adults are metabolically unhealthy, right? Well,
Scary.
I mean, that's not rocket science to be like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
maybe some of the basics aren't the best. Like, what are we putting into
Mm-hmm.
our body? What are we surrounding ourselves
Mm-hmm.
with? How are we living our lives, right?
I heard a statistic the other day, and I think it was 80% of the grocery store is processed food.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah. That
80%.
was the whole thing, like growing up, like stick to the outside, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even
That's,
more so, that's like just not the packages. Like if it's got things you can't pronounce, if it's coming
yes.
in a package and it's got more than five ingredients, like probably not the best option. I mean, we do what we have to do, but
Yeah.
also we
Good, better, best.
we have the responsibility to ourselves, right? Like we
I agree.
are our base and we need to
I,
love ourselves just as much as we love everybody else,
yeah.
right?
Got-
Yeah.
Just like our
Yeah.
cells
Bring the
love.
hugs. We need to hug
Yeah.
ourselves,
Yeah.
like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, if you're not going to feed this to your kids or your grandkids, like, why are you feeding
Right.
it to yourself?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I know. And I hang out and I do most of my shopping there in the produce department and then
Hmm.
add a little bit more of everything else. But yeah, it's scary to think that I think it was like 67% of our diet is usually ultra processed food, and your
Hmm.
body is running, your brain
Is running
is
on that.
running
Yeah.
on that. And
Hmm.
just talk about adding to brain fog and confusion. There's
Yeah.
just no way that you could be your absolute best self
Hmm.
by that's if that's the fuel
That
you're
you're
running off
using.
of. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so talk about stress on the body.
Hmm.
That type of a diet does cause stress on the body as
Hmm.
well as just stress in our life. Do you
Hmm.
want to talk about the connection between stress that you are feeling emotionally and how that is connected to our gut health? Because I think that plays a big role in overall well-being.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that also kind of goes back to the to-do list piece too, right? Like when we're just rushed, when we're going through things, we identify it as a psychological stressor, right? We're very good at being like, there's not a tiger chasing me, like things are okay. This is just my normal, just getting through my day. But our body, it still goes through the chemical process
I agree.
of, okay, well, here's the cortisol, here's the norepinephrine and the epinephrine, like here's what we're doing. We're gonna boost the insulin, we're gonna try and get things moving and going. And so while we might not interpret our stressors as stress, right? Our body's still interpreting it as stress
Right.
on that
I've
like chemical level.
Right. And I've
Hmm.
heard that your body doesn't know if there's a lion or a tiger there or not. It
Hmm.
just knows you
Hmm.
feel like
Yeah.
there is
You
that.
feel something's off, right?
Yes. And so
Mm-hmm.
the body doesn't know if it's real or imagined, but it just still
Mm-hmm.
reacts that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, how does that level of stress affect your gut health?
Yeah. So when we are stressed and like in that sympathetic mode all the
Fight or
time, that
flight.
survival mode, that fight or flight mode, our our body naturally moves blood away from digestion towards more of the vital things, right? Because again, it doesn't know if we're running away from a tiger or if we've just got a angry boss. So it's like, okay, blood goes to the brain, blood goes to the muscles, like we're gonna fight, we're gonna flight, let's do this. So digestion is not a primary need at this moment in time. So we move that blood away from those organs and then digestive enzymes themselves will drop, right? So you've got less stomach acid, you've got less bile flowing, you've got less pancreatic enzyme output, and then our motility changes. So instead of just
Right.
continuing to move that peristalsis, it's like, whoa, no, we're not. So it just stops. And so people get like a lot of constipation happens or that like nervous tummy got to run to the bathroom kind of a thing. Cause
Mm-hmm.
it's like, let's evacuate what we don't need right now.
Mm-hmm.
Cause we're going to go fight this, right?
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
you think stress, what would be the number one problem with gut symptoms? Help.
Yeah.
Is stress the number one? Is food the number one? Is it
And
inflammation?
they're all tied together. I think that's the hard part,
Uh-huh.
right? Because it's kind of like, well, which came first, the chicken or the egg? And like I mean, like my
Mm-hmm.
personal experience, when I have been under a lot of stress, when I am
Mm-hmm.
feeling overwhelmed or anxious or
Mm-hmm.
sad or any of that, food starts to become the thing I lean towards, right? And it's not the I want to eat kale. It's the, oh, you know what sounds good?
Yeah.
Some of these
Not
more,
kale.
yeah, not kale. Though now I don't know, I like kale a lot. Um, some of these more like sugar laden kind of processed foods, right? That's what feels good to me. And oh, like this isn't my all the time, but I'm going to do this for a little bit. But then that little
Mm-hmm.
bit becomes a slippery slope, right? And
Oh yeah.
then that feeds into that shame spiral. And like now I'm sad
Mm-hmm.
because I did this and I told myself I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't going to do that. And it just, they all kind of come together. And then they're also creating this inflammation within your body, right? Because again, like when we're shutting down our digestion, because we're in this fight flight like mode, and also now we're not eating the most nutrient dense foods for ourselves, we're creating this inflammation. We're creating this shift in our microbiome. We're now adjusting that gut permeability. So it all kind of goes together.
So where do you, when people want to get started, where do you
Hmm.
start? I mean, do you focus on first, or do you focus on
Yeah, it
food
really
first?
depends on the person, right?
Yeah,
So
that's a
I
good
think,
answer.
a lot of the women that I work with, they do tend to be more of that type A kind of person. So there's a lot around like behavior shifts that we do, but we also do work on nutrition at the same time, right? Then there are women who are like, I had one person a while ago. It's really funny. She's like, "Oh no, I'm not a stressed out person. I'm retired. Life is great. All good." So we worked a lot on her nutrition. We worked a lot on just like the digestive side of things. And all of that got better. And then she's like, I still have this joint pain. And I was doing a little bit of digging and questioning with her. And somehow we ended up doing like hormone testing and her cortisol was rock bottom. I was like, well, why do you think this is? She's like, oh, just because I'm just going all the time. I'm like, well, going all the time is stress. I get you don't feel
Yeah.
stressed, but you're still stressed.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, yeah.
That's, I, I'm listening to what you're saying. I
I
am
know. Well, and we
listening.
have to be honest with ourselves. I think sometimes that's the
Mm-hmm.
hardest part is like we think that, okay, this is the issue. I'm going to address this issue. And we start to address it and we start to uncover other things. And then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, here's the mirror. Like, really, when you're looking into it, what is going on in your life? No excuses, no judgment. Like, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis? And how is this possibly impacting this? Right.
Yeah, I'm like a go, go, go all day long.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say high stress. I maybe a little high strung, but I get a lot done. I'm very
Mm-hmm.
goal oriented
Mm-hmm.
type A,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just my baseline. So I've never considered myself under
Yeah.
any stress. It's
Well,
just
and
I
that's when we
must
were
like
talking
it or I
about it.
wouldn't do
Yeah.
it.
Well, we were talking about it. I'm like, well, what would happen if you just like you didn't do all the things on your to-do list? Like, what would happen if we just didn't do that day. And she's like, I probably wouldn't get out of bed. I would be so exhausted because her to-do list is what motivates her to get through the day, right? And so it's like, oh, whoa, hold on. Okay, this is now we're seeing this rock bottom cortisol and
Hmm.
totally off topic, but not really when we're thinking about stress, right?
Yeah,
So like here's why. So your to-do list has now become a protective mechanism for you.
totally. Can I
Hmm
tell you? Let's make it about me right now. Why not? This is my
It's
show. I
all
can do
about
what
you.
I can.
Yes.
Yeah, I can
It's
do
the Paige
whatever I
show.
want.
Yeah.
I've got two switches on or
hmm
off. So when
hmm
you're talking about her, when if she would just stop, you just literally stop. But what terrifies me most, what's scarier than the pace I travel is having nothing to do and being bored. There is nothing that
Mm.
freaks me out more and would cause me more stress to
hmm
not be productive because when I go to bed at night, I'm like, yes, I
I
did
did all the
it.
things.
A plus day. Yeah, I got so much done. I feel so fulfilled. I'm on top of
Yeah.
my game.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's like check mark, check mark, check mark. Good for you, girl.
hmm
So I
hmm
actually get in a weird way. I know it sounds stressful to people, but I'm getting my dopamine,
hmm
oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins
From that.
by
Yeah.
I do. So I might be wired a little differently, but
hmm
I love it because otherwise I probably wouldn't do it. I don't know. It
hmm
just for me it seems more stressful to not do things how I'm doing them. So,
hmm
but my body may be interpreting it differently, and I don't
Yeah. And I
know.
think that's the thing, right? Is like, are there still days where you have rest, right? And rest does
Hmm.
not mean sitting on the couch all day, right? Like,
Okay, so talk about what rest
like
actually is.
it can be, I am going outside for a walk. I am spending time outside in the garden today. I am doing things that nourish me on a truly cellular level without having obligations, without having the next, where I can just really be here in this moment, right? For some people, that is. Some people, that's sitting on the couch watching Netflix for a few hours. For
Yeah,
some people like me, it's being outside and like doing things outside, right?
yeah.
That's what nourishes me and makes me feel rested and rejuvenated, right?
I do like an hour of housewives at the end of my day to try and turn my brain off.
Yeah.
If I can watch a show at night before I go to bed, I really
hmm
look forward to that and just vegging out. I don't even know if I'm watching or just kind of going through the videotapes of the day. It needs to be mindless, senseless. Oh, I wonder what they're
hmm
wearing or their
hmm
vacation or how they decorate their
hmm
house. Just still, I need nothing heavy. I just need mindless. I guess arguing is what they do, but I'm more looking at their lipstick and things like that. But this may sound crazy too, but even when I go to the gym, there is an element of brain rest in there for me. It's like called
hmm
active meditation
hmm
that I can just kind of get into
A
that
rhythm.
rhythm.
hmm
Yes. So I think I do find a little bit of rest in that, as bizarre as that sounds
Yeah,
as
no, it's
well.
not, right? Because that's, I don't know if you've heard of that term before, but hormesis, right? So that
Mm-mm.
kind of like good stress, right? We do need some
Yes.
good stressors like
Mm-hmm.
exercise, right, for our body, or even like when we're thinking about diets, phytonutrients sometimes can be a hormesis for our body.
Oh, that
Um,
makes
because
sense.
it's like, oh, we're not digesting these fully. It's kind of a little bit of a reaction. And that can be really important. We need that.
Do you want to talk anything about, we talked about exercise just now a
Mhm.
little bit, about the interplay between that and gut health? Do you believe that there is a connection there? And if so, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think first and foremost, when we're thinking about like physical movement, so walking, running, doing weightlifting, those kinds of things, like that helps with our peristalsis, right?
I
Our actual like
agree.
digestive
I
movement, right? Nothing
agree.
better than
Yes.
having some food and then going for a walk. Like that's just, you're
Yes.
probably gonna have a bowel movement.
Hmm.
Then also with that too, actual physical movement impacts our microbiome, right? Because again, that hormesis, that good stress, like it changes the blood flow, it changes the stuff that's going on that cellular level, which also impacts our gut health and our microbiome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, don't you think then let's take this a step further about how exercise and gut health and all are connected with emotional
Hmm.
regulation too, because I think
Absolutely.
that is a huge one when it
Yeah.
comes to gut health. You want to talk about how exercise plays into that, as well as if you want to just talk about emotional regulation and all the different aspects that play into digestion, that'd be great.
So I guess when we're talking about that, are you talking about like how exercise also helps us to like calm down a little bit and
Yes,
like process some of that? Yeah.
nervous system regulation. What are the components of system regulation that play into our gut health? I put exercise high on that list, and so
Hmm.
I just thought we could transition into that
Hmm.
since we've been talking about exercise.
Yeah, because it definitely helps us to lower our cortisol levels long term,
Mm-hmm.
right? It also helps a lot with blood sugar regulation and again, inflammation. So when we're tying that into gut health, right? Like those are really big components too, because we need to have adequate cortisol levels, not too high, not too low. We need to
Mm-hmm.
have good blood sugar balance to keep our microbes healthy, to keep them happy, to keep them making the things that keep our body healthy and keep our cells healthy. Um, Also, I mean, like, this might be dating myself, but what was the movie? Legally Blonde,
Uh-huh.
right? Where she's like, happy
Yeah.
people just don't kill people. You know what I'm talking about?
In general.
Right, okay, yeah. So, because she was talking about exercise, and well, happy people just don't kill people. So that's true. Like when we exercise, generally that does help a lot with our mental health because it helps to release a lot of those endorphins. And so when
Yeah.
we're not feeling that sad, that anxious, that angry, those things, that again is communication with our gut and it creates a whole different state. So,
Yeah, do you have non-negotiables when it comes to nervous system regulation, things
mhm.
that you really need to be doing this either daily or have it part of your life? Or
Yeah,
what are some non-negotiables with nervous system regulation that the gut thanks you back for when you
yeah,
do?
absolutely, absolutely. For me specifically, my morning time is pretty much non-negotiable, right? And
Yes, agree.
I am big on kind of not waking up slow per se, but it's like I wake up, I do some breathing and breath work stuff. I kind of like look at my day as a whole. I get into it slow, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then also when we go back to that eating hygiene piece, like a couple of the big nervous system things that I do there, it's like I take a few deep breaths before I eat, right? And generally
Okay.
a like shorter inhale, so a count of four, and then an extended exhale, like a count of eight, because that helps to push you into a parasympathetic state, right?
Nice.
That's another big non-negotiable. And usually actually I do that throughout the day. So it's like I have these little blocks where it's like, okay, or these habits that I've created where it's like, okay, if I close my laptop, I take two breaths. If I'm walking down the steps, I take some breaths at the bottom of the stairs, like just these things. So it's like, okay, this is what happens when I'm
Okay.
doing this. Um, those would be big ones. And then also just walking. Like I'm a big fan of walking. So that's a big
Is
nervous
that
system regulator and also just really good for your digestion, right?
is that your form of cardio, or you do different things in that?
Yeah. So like over the past, I used to be a big runner, love cardio, cardio queen, right?
Me too. Used to be, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then just like the past 5 years with my own kind of like health stuff, got out of it. And now I'm slowly adding it back in. So the past 2 years, like walking has been my big thing.
Hmm.
And now I'm starting to add in more cardio. I'm actually we have a race out here called Hood to Coast.
Ah,
So from Mount Hood to the coast, it's a 2-day event. And basically you run different intervals. So adding
oh,
running back in. But yeah, then weightlifting is a big one too. So I've started adding that back
totally.
in. Yeah,
Does
twice
that
a
have
week.
any bearing on gut health? Because I've
Mhm.
shifted from the cardio queen I ran
Mhm.
for 30 years, and then my old lady hips and knees said,
Oh,
mm-mm.
no
So
more.
I've switched it. Yeah, I've had to switch to different interval trainings
Yeah.
on machines and hiking and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, does so and now I have really gone to weights in the past decade and nothing
Hmm.
has changed my body. I'm
More than
have
weights. Hmm.
yeah, half marathons did nothing to change the
Hmm.
shape of my body. Weights
Yeah.
change
Completely
the sh
changing body
yes,
composition. Yeah.
yes. Does that have any
Um,
impact on gut health?
yeah, it does in the sense of if we think about it as a stressor, right? So if like doing too much cardio, is that a physiological stressor for you at whatever point you are in your life, right? Is that
Mm-hmm.
hurting you more than it's helping you? Then yes, shifting
Mm-hmm.
over to more of those low impact weight bearing kind of activities can be really beneficial. Also, just like after 35, everybody should be doing weightlifting anyway,
Totally.
because we need good bone health. We need to support our frame, right? We need our joints aren't what holds us up. Our muscles are what holds us up.
Oh,
So,
that's a writer downer.
yeah, yeah. And if you could go back in time, that would be a thing where it's like, okay, this will help your joints long term. So you can continue to run, you can continue to do these things because you have
Mm-hmm.
the skeleton is the frame, but the muscles are the support, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Hmm.
I love that. I want to make sure to hit this, and I want to be respectful of your time
Yeah.
about raw versus cooked. You and I don't know if you remember this, but I have always eaten a pound of raw salad a day, and I
Hmm.
had horrible bloating afterwards. And you and I had talked about this, and I had told you I got one of these little salad choppers, just a
Hmm.
handheld, it's 7.99 on Amazon, and now I chop the kale, the broccoli, the cauliflower, the purple
In the
cabbage,
smaller
the
pieces.
carrots, the
Yeah.
peppers. Yes, and my bloating has gone completely away. That three
Yay.
hour after that
Yeah.
would hit me, gas and bloating is terrible, and your stomach
Hmm.
would hurt and feel so
Hmm.
distended. And now nothing, but just by breaking it down into smaller
Hmm.
pieces
Hmm.
has made a tremendous difference. But do you want to talk about the difference between raw and cooked? And
Yeah.
if you have an opinion on what is more beneficial to your gut health?
Yeah, so again, it kind of goes back to like what is your current state, right? And like as you mentioned, even just breaking it down into smaller bits has been helpful because it's less work for your digestive system, right? And that's kind of the whole premise with cooked versus raw. If things are cooked or sautéed or like lightly whatevered, they are already a little bit digested. So you don't need to work as hard to process it. And oftentimes, when we're kind of rushing through, we're eating quickly, we're taking big bites and we swallow. Our stomach has to work overtime to really break it down, to really process it. Sometimes it doesn't happen all the way. So now it gets into our small intestines where it's more surface area for bacteria to actually like sit and ferment and
Mm-hmm.
grow, right? So that's why I like doing cooked foods for the majority of people, cooked vegetables and
Mm-hmm.
things like that, especially when we're early in on gut healing, right? And why a lot of women, it's like, oh, I've switched my diet. Now I'm eating healthy. Wonderful, right? That's a good thing. And also, you can have more issues just because we're not processing it fully, right? Again, we got to wait
Mm-hmm.
for that shift in the microbiome. We've got to wait for our digestive enzymes to catch up with us. We got to do all these things. So it takes a little bit of time.
This is going to sound ageist, but
Mm-mm.
is it possible that what my body could digest at 18 versus what it can digest at 62
Oh, yeah,
is
definitely
just,
different.
yeah, it
Yeah.
just my digestion just got older.
That
And
there is some truth in that statement, right? Like just naturally, as we get older, we have lower stomach acid, we have a
yeah,
little bit of less enzymatic capacity, right? Like that's just true. However, there's also ways to work around that. Like you mentioned, the chopping up the food really well, or again, breaking it down with cooking. Those can be really beneficial. Using some things like apple cider vinegar or digestive enzymes or bitters, right? Those can help with that.
yeah, and I feel like my heartburn is better
Good.
now
Yeah. Yeah.
too.
Because it's not pushing up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
And so the other thing that for me as I've gotten older, I feel like I do better with more frequent, smaller meals than three big
Mm-hmm.
meals a
Hmm.
day. Is
Hmm.
that age related, or is there a better way that people should eat, or is it just an individual thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, generally speaking, ideally, we're shooting for those 3 meals because we want to have space between so
Yeah, I
our
want to
body can
talk about that.
activate. Yeah, so our body can activate what we call the migrating motor complex, which is just like this big sweep, right? So it's the thing that like cleans everything out, really gets that peristalsis going. And that usually doesn't happen until a couple hours, right? So giving us space to activate that. Also, if the question goes into like, well, why do you do better with the smaller meals, right? Is it because you feel so bloated and distended when you eat
Mm-hmm.
a normal meal? So is
Mm-hmm.
that digestive enzyme issues? Is that something going on within the small intestines and the microbiome? Or is it that there's some blood sugar things going on, right? So if you don't snack, do you get a crash? Like what, you know? So it's very unique to people, but
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
Are you a big supplement person?
No.
If you eat right, you don't need supplements.
Um, I think it depends on what you're eating, definitely, right? And like where you're sourcing your food from, because again, 2026 America, got questions about soil, got questions about, agriculture in general and things that way. But for the majority of people, I think if we're really focusing on the basics, there's a lot that we can do without that supplementation.
Yeah.
And again, that like just because we add a supplement, that doesn't necessarily fix the problem, right? So, taking a digestive enzyme because you have low stomach acid doesn't address why you have low stomach acid, right? We
So
need
your
to ask the
probiotics,
question,
yeah,
right? Hmm.
probiotics, prebiotics, you would prefer to
Hmm.
get through your diet.
Yeah, I'm a fan of getting it through food first.
Yeah.
And then if, there's still issues like, okay, we can do targeted supplementation for a period of time. There should always be a reason why you're doing it and for a duration. It shouldn't just be like this, okay, well, I'm on this for the rest of my life, or
Yeah.
somebody told me this was good, so I'm just going to take it. Who knows?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I've loved this conversation. This time has
It's
just
gone all
flown
over the
by.
place.
Yeah. It's gone exactly where we're supposed to go, right?
Good. Yeah. Yeah.
Where the universe intended
Yeah.
it to go.
Yeah.
But before I let you go, do you want to say one piece of hopeful advice to people listening for their gut health? Where would they start? What would you tell them?
Mm.
What's something hopeful that people listening who might have issues
Yeah. I
to
think
hear?
first and foremost, like, I'm a big believer in listening to our body, right? So your symptoms are not random. Your body isn't broken, right? Like your body is speaking to you in the only way it knows how, and it's doing what it was designed to do, right? So if you show up and you are talking to people about, well, I'm always bloated or I have this constipation or all these things are going on. Like it's just that we haven't been shown how to support our gut, right? In a way that actually works for us. And so when we really focus on those basics, when we calm the inflammation, when we support the nervous system, we really can heal, right?
Oh, I love
That's,
that.
yeah. Your symptoms mean something and you're not broken. Those are the big ones. Yeah,
Yeah,
hugs.
you're just going to be giving yourself hugs all day long,
Yes, yes. Just walk
inside
around
and
like
outside.
this
Yeah.
forever.
Do you want to tell people where they can find you? And I'll also put it in the show notes as well.
Yeah, awesome. I think if this struck a chord with you, I would love for people to go check out my bloating guide, which is like the 5 hidden reasons why you're still bloated, even if you're cutting out dairy and gluten. That would be a great place to start. But also check me out on Instagram. That's where I am the most. So I love doing education over there, talking to people, getting to know people. So would love to see you. Yeah.
And I want to put in a plug for you that sign up for her newsletter. It's
Mm-hmm.
so good. That's where I get most of my ideas for conversation with her is
Good.
every time I get a newsletter, I'm like, oh yeah, I should have her come and talk about that. That's so interesting. So you
Yeah,
do
they
a
relate to
fabulous
all of
job.
us, right? Like that's
Totally.
we all have guts, we all poop. There's all
Yeah, yeah.
everybody's got stuff going
Mm-hmm.
on. So
Mm-hmm. And
yeah.
she really does care because I've sent her emails and I'm like, I know you don't want to know about my poop, but
I
here's
do.
what's
I actually
happening.
do.
And that's what she said. I really do. I really, really do. So
Yeah,
she
yeah. My
she
5-year-old is
sincere.
starting to not talk about it all the time. So now I'm like, who else can I
Yeah.
talk to?
Yeah, that's right. It is a fascinating topic. So, thank you so much for being with us
Of
today. And if you want
course.
to find out more about us, you can find us at realfoodrecovery4u.com. That's the number 4 and the letter U. And our book, Real Food Recovery If Food Isn't the Answer, What's the Question, is out on Amazon today. Thanks so much for being with us today. Bye, guys.
Bye.